Good afternoon, everyone. This In the Meantime series is a video broadcast starting from a series of email blasts we called Weekly Grace. In that format, I had an article about religion and contemporary society, and then later another article about religion and technology or science. Today, I've titled this article, Creation Continues, or Why Should the Biblical Canon Remain Frozen? I have to warn you, first of all, that this may trip your heresy meter. I was reading morning prayer yesterday very early in the morning, and the Hebrew Bible lection was a story from Exodus about the Hebrews enslaved in Egypt after Joseph and his brothers died. That Pharaoh commanded the midwives to kill all the Hebrew baby boys, but the midwives did not follow Pharaoh's orders. Instead, the midwives said to Pharaoh that the Hebrew women were stronger than the Egyptian women and gave birth and hid their children from the midwives before they could get there. Next up in the service was the Song of Moses, also from Exodus, about the drowning of Pharaoh's chariots in the Red Sea. Who cannot forget that phrase, "Horse and rider has he hurled into the sea"? Hooray for our side. Obviously, that day was not such a good day for the chariot drivers and their families. From beginning to end, the Bible is full of stories of winners and losers. By the time you get to the teachings of Jesus, the losers sometimes are more difficult to spot, and often one's first impulse with a parable of Jesus takes you to pick the wrong side. The Hebrew and Christian Bibles convey a story of God's relationship to humanity spanning several thousand years of ancient history. And even over that ancient period, from Adam and Eve to the siege of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD, things evolve. Philosophy, moral teachings, sexual relations, technology, agriculture, commerce, government, construction, all those things evolve over time. And given the more rapid pace of change in modern society, we often miss the fact that lots of ideas about things changed over the period of time in which all the different books of the Bible were written. Interestingly, the Jewish faith grew and developed nearly 1,500 years before the books of the Hebrew Bible were agreed upon as what Christians call the Old Testament. Christian letters and gospels circulated throughout the ancient world for 4 centuries until the books of today's New Testament were decided. It's not clear whether the ancient world viewed various writings with such a hard-edged secular versus sacred divide as we have today. What if we got rid of that secular versus sacred division? What if we acknowledge that every written work of humanity might contain a spark of divine inspiration or wisdom? Could we learn things from other faiths and other writings that might enhance our relationship to God or with each other? Would the Christian God of love, taught by Jesus and the Hebrew prophets, be okay with that idea? Could we learn things from science, law, medicine, history, or art that would bring us closer to God? Would those things be, quote, divinely inspired or purely secular? I personally find the sacred-secular division to be artificial and unhelpful. Furthermore, by freezing the books of the Bible into the sets agreed upon by groups of men centuries ago, we set up the frozen Bible itself as a kind of idol for worship. We deny ourselves the possibility that our ideas about things may change for the better or for worse. We deny the world the opportunity for our faith to grow alongside modern ideas. Why do so many religious leaders insist on the idea that a particular collection of text is the only authoritative guide to their religion? I find divine and human inspiration in quantum mechanics, in great literature, the music of J.S. Bach, the art of Pablo Picasso. You might find inspiration elsewhere. Maybe we could talk about how these things inform our understanding of humanity and of God. Bottom line, things evolve. The viral plague affecting the human population on this planet evolved from earlier forms. If you don't, quote, believe in evolution, I suppose you would have to think that this virus just appeared out of nothing. But most of us today are comfortable with evolution. I am only suggesting that we broaden our sources of religious inspiration and see where that leads. I can assure you that God is big enough and strong enough to handle our toughest questions. Have a great week.